And welcome back again. Today we're coming to you from Bourbon Street, New Orleans, Louisiana, one of my absolute favorite places to be. If you're ever in town and you like good drinks, strong drinks, I don't know if good's the right word, this place, Tropical Isle Hand Grenade, recommended highly. You get a nice souvenir cup too. I don't drink anymore, but when I did, that's the one. All right, so the plan for today is to talk about Monroe's motivated sequence, but to actually use it and to apply it to our group topic, which is balding. Um, so that's what we'll do. We'll recall that there are a few different ways that you can do this. Just like with the other ones, it's your call on what kind of attention getter you use, but remember, it's very important. So we may start us out with a story. And then don't forget also that the 5 steps of Monroe's, just as a review, you've got attention, need, satisfaction, visualization, and call to action. So those will be on this outline. The attention is the attention. Body point 1 is the need. Body point 2, satisfaction. Body point 3, visualization. And then the closure is separate from the call to action, but it needs to be there at the end. So let's do it. Now, before we find other sources and this kind of thing, I want to check the time. 3:17. We'll call it 3:15. So we should be done by between 4 and 4:15. To show you again, this can be done in about an hour. So with the attention getter, we have a few different things we can do. Last time we talked about wanting to get to a cliffhanging moment, and maybe that's something that we can do. So let's make up a name. I'm going to look around to see what's in front of me. Comet Multi-Spray Surface Cleaner. Can I make a name out of that? Comet CO, so CO Connor. We're going to go with Connor. All right, Connor was a 20-year-old college student. What do I say about Connor? Basically, the story is going to turn into he started losing hair, and then one morning he had a realization. We'll see what we get to here. Connor was a 20-year-old college student. He loved the college life and felt younger than ever. Between friends, fun, and we don't want to say family. We need another F. I know what you're thinking. No, we're not going to put that on there. Friends, fun, and fraternity. Connor had the life. However, he noticed that he was seeing some hair on his pillow each morning. At first, he didn't think about it much. But then, more and more and more hair started being left behind. Until one day, it happened. Dun dun dun! Alright, so, quick and easy, self-topic. I'm Carl. I'm going to talk to you about baldness. Now, remember here, this needs to be different than the first one. The first one was just, you should know more about, you should understand. Now we should say something like, you should agree with, you should believe that. So, by the end of this speech, you should agree that there is a, I want to say there's a stigma for sure, but I want to call it like it's not acceptable. There is a, we'll just use that word, an acceptable stigma regarding baldness in our culture. Okay. Piece of central idea. Just kidding. We do that last, remember. Why do we care about this? It may be useful to look back at the old one and see why we cared about that one. I imagine this would be similar. If you hear noises, sorry, it's my son. So why do we care about this? Well, the first reason is many men listening will experience baldness on some level. Oops. And it often begins by age 21. Second, women listening may think baldness does not impact them, but women suffer from hair loss as well. Great. So now here, this is an important thing to note. We're not going to say problem solution visualization or need satisfaction visualization. Instead, we want to be a little more creative. I mean, you don't have to go crazy, but it should still be very short. So the first one, we're going to talk about a bald stigma. Then we'll talk about, let's call it changing our culture. And then we can say, I'm trying to just not be super cheesy, like a balder tomorrow, a better balder tomorrow. Have a little fun. All right, so to begin, let's discuss the stigma surrounding baldness in America. Great. Let's check it out. So, we will see what we can find on this. Bald stigma. Why is there a stigma around male baldness? Now, interesting enough, we said in America, and this is the BBC. So, and now remember, I said last time, work smart, not hard. I mean that. So we're going to do a nice little quick edit. In our culture. Instead, in Western culture. Baldness. Well, let's do this around baldness, period. I'd rather change that since we found something so easily than to keep searching and searching, especially since this is a good source here. There we go. Keep preventing baldness. For many, male pattern baldness is a source of social distress. Yep. We know that it's a source of social distress. If you remember, we found that in the last go around. But I'm going to Control or Command F. Stigma. So it's only in the byline. Stigma around male baldness and why do men try to cure it? So, okay, they don't really go into it further than that. It's so hard. Physical perfection in the media lead many men to seek self-esteem in their appearance. People create self-esteem from it, and they lose even a little bit if their character and confidence is based on that. They're going to have some weird emotional impacts. Okay. And apparently this is not new, right? Back hundreds, if not thousands of years in the Bible, two bears mauled 42 boys after they mocked the prophet Elijah by calling him Baldy. Wow, that's beautiful. Obsession with Julius Caesar. This will be fun. We can put this in. The Vikings used a special lotion. Yeah, that works. Okay. So, let's flip it back over. And we want to think just a little bit ahead here so that we can make a plan. Stigma. Here we'll talk about it's nothing new. We'll talk about self-image. And I'm going to call it, I've got an idea for this. False, no. What do I want to call it? Well, I don't want to spend too much time. The other balding. I'm going to talk about sick people there. So we know this is nothing new. So we can put one. According to BBC article from 2018. 2018. Stigma around, yeah. Balding. Balding or being bald dates back to ancient times. We'll talk about Julius Caesar. And let's see. I think Vikings are the other ones. Vikings and special lotion. Now, the key thing we need to remember here, while this is fine to talk about that's nothing new, we really want to emphasize why this is a problem. So I'm actually going to take this out now that I'm thinking about it a little more. And we're going to say self-image. We're going to come down here. And we're going to say, I wish I had saved the search from yesterday. I guess I could look it up, but that's okay. American, oh, right there it was. American, come on, baby. There. American Hair Loss Association. They had something on here about how this affects men. Extremely unhappy with their situation, would do anything to change it. Interpersonal relationships and professional life. Now, just because we've used this before doesn't mean that we can't use it again. Work smart, not hard. I'm going to do it there. And we're going to say copy. Oops, swing it back. Self-image. According to the American Hair Loss Association. And I forgot to get the date, but it's up here. I remember 2010. It's not in. So I'm going to be very clear with this. You can say, according to the American Hair Loss Association, updated in 2010. That's when it was their last update. And give it to them. There we go. Then there was something else. Let's just see what we can find. I'm going to open a new in case we want to bring that back. Mental suffering and baldness. Okay, oh, look here. Alopecia, which is the technical term. And this is from the National Institute of Health. Good. So, format, EPUB, PDF. Let's see what it looks like in a PDF just to... Yeah, here we go. Psychological problems associated with this. Marital problems. Career. Post-prevention distressing. Serious psychosomatic disorder. Yeah. Okay, so this is kind of interesting. So the first one was men, right? I just want to make sure from male pattern, yeah. So now let's hit women. About 40%. Oh, let's go to this. There is an important link, 40%. This. Copy. Let's see if we can make that work. There was one other thing I wanted to grab from there. Psychiatric problems. Okay. And I'll make that a separate third point, actually. This is the National Institute of Health. I want to make sure I cite this right. I know that's where it's coming from, but what do they say for citation? APA, Psychological Clinical Research at BMJ. What is that? Oh, this is a peer review? What? Love it. But I really need to know. Sorry if you see this on the screen and it's obvious. I do not. Search in PMC, search in PubMed. If you're ever in this situation, do this. Oops. I'm going to copy this, open a new window, paste it, and BMJ. BMJ.com. Let's see if this gives us a different view of it. The BMJ. Okay. Anything at the bottom here that might give us a insight. Doesn't look that way. Bad article to BMJ portfolio. What would it? Duh. There we go. Still nothing that. See, this is a problem with the website, in my opinion. Our company. BMJ. Who we are. Medical journal. BMJ is a healthcare. Okay, wow. Let's see. What is the BMJ journal? I imagine the J stands for journal. British Medical Journal. There you go. There you go, folks. Just keep digging, and you see it is peer-reviewed, and that makes life easier. According to the... Boom, let's take that out. According to... Because it's not according to the journal, remember. According to an article in the British... Oh, boy. Medical Journal from... What was the date on that? Dun, 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 dun. 2005, it looks like. 2005. There is an important link. Okay. That same British Medical Journal article noted that. Okay. All right. Do note the source requirements for this one. There are more here. Let me go and pull it just to make sure we're all on the same page. I know it's 2 peer-reviewed sources, and I think there's 4 total. 4, 2 peer-reviewed. Okay, just so we're on the same page. All right, so we've got one here. Let's go ahead and highlight that. To save a little time, I'm just going to highlight it and not put it elsewhere. I just want to make sure that we can count these easily. Boom. Okay. So now we've got an A, we've got a B. I'm not really worried about going further than that at this point. So now that we see the impacts of the baldness stigma, we'll call it, let's address this issue. Okay, how are we going to change it? Remove the stigma. So here is when you need step by step. So a couple different things you can do. For this one, I mean, we're not going to change a law. I mean, that's just not going to happen. I think the key thing is let's say, educate people. Remove the stigma, let's say it up here, through education. So we want to first identify realize that baldness is a physical process beyond the individual's control. Then I'm going to jump down here and divide that out and to say, it's unacceptable to stigmatize other uncontrollable physical processes. And then an example might be I don't want to like single out any one, because there's problems there. One, if you single out one person, like I've got a cousin that has Tourette's. So if I said it like Tourette's, then that seems insensitive towards Tourette's. Like your baldness is not on par with, it's not a disability. Let's just do physical characteristics, not unlike eye color, skin color, or let's just go with those two. Skin color or eye color or skin tone, we'll say. Okay. Our second step. We're going to realize that, but now we got to get the word out. Get the word out through an advertising campaign. Sure. Okay, so what are we going to do there? We're going to run some TV, we'll say TV and online ads. These are going to be paid for by the National, well, I want to say the National Association for Hair Loss, but well, we can do that. The paid for by concerned individuals, donors, and organized by the National Hair Loss Association would be my plan. Division C. Finally, we must, let's say, how are we going to reach more people? Okay, hold on. Online ads, and let's do famous bald people in the ads. they're going to be working. It'll be pro bono, so free, and then production paid for. Production and airtime paid for by those folks. And then finally, we will start a pledge campaign to remove the stigma, which will find people signing a pledge of not making fun of bald people. I wouldn't sign it. And we're gonna have we're gonna call it, name it. We got to get fun here. We'll come back to that. Okay. Now, I want to cite something. Baldness is a physical process and beyond people's control. Okay, so let's go here. I'm going to go to gbsu.edu library. Databases. Again, if you watch the first one, you'll remember that there's a few different ways to get to the databases. I like Academic Search Ultimate. Sign in because we're all working from home. And what causes baldness? Please enter search terms. Okay. We want full text and peer-reviewed. 1904. What in the world was written in 1904? I want to see oldest first. Just curious. This is a determinable fees in American jurisdiction. Oh God, who knows? I'm not going to spend our time looking at that. So I'm going to go back to relevance. Should men still go bald gracefully? So still implies that there used to be a time when men did go bald gracefully. That's interesting. The Lancet, which is a great medical journal, reports on studies being done into what causes baldness in men and ways it can be treated, details of the androgen effect, testosterone. Okay. I want to go ahead and I want to read this. Where's it at? I'm not going to read the whole thing. I'll show you how I would read this if I were you. It's only 3 pages. The turn of the 19th century, baldness in men was thought to be due to wearing of hats and steel helmets. It was only 1942 that James Hamilton clearly established a series of experiments. He treated castrated men with testosterone that androgens were essential for the development of baldness. The testosterone induced aggravated baldness, reverse treatment of baldness, yada, yada, yada. So I want to know when it was graceful. 7 probably is going to be, my guess is at the very end now. Basis of 83 patients. No? Wow. Many women want to use this because it has to be clearly drawn. Blah, blah, blah. Until be useful in the prevention of balding. Until then, men should still be encouraged to come to terms with their hair loss. Boy, you tell this is a doctor. They never really get to when it was okay to be bald. Yeah. So, no, don't want that one. see what else we can find. It's really good. I mean, it gives us what we need. I should just use it. It tells us that it's chemical imbalances that cause us to go bald. So this is 2000 from the Lancet. Okay. Those are bonuses that have been beyond the individual's control. Lancet article from 2000. I'll also probably want to explain what the Lancet is in case people aren't familiar. So to remind myself to do that, I'm just going to do that. It'll work. We're still going to come back to that, the pledge drive there. Okay. Let's do our transition. Now that we know about the stigma surrounding baldness and how we can address it, let's look at what a better, balder future might look like. Future view. So here's what you should do. Go back up to the problem. And the big key takeaway was self-image. That was the only thing we really need to solve for. So we can just say that as culture accepts baldness as normal and natural, men will, well, I shouldn't say men, balding men and women will not need to feel stigmatized due to their appearance. That's the big thing. Great. It'll also be better because people will save money trying to treat baldness, and I think you can make the argument will be a anytime we can reduce stigma and making fun of people, making fun of a group of people, our culture improves. Good. So now we've got two journals, a BBC article, and people will save money trying to treat baldness. Let's look that up. Money spent on, whoops. Irish Times, The Independent, Cost Helper, The Guardian. These aren't bad at all. Let's see this one. 2013. That's a little dated. Every year, $2 billion spent worldwide on surgical procedures. Society of Hair Restoration Surgery. Okay, so that's not even taking into account the like Rogaine stuff. Multi-billion-dollar industry. Let's see what we get here. Telegraph. Oh, this is in style. Okay. When was this one written? 2019. Good. That's better. Stigma that's helping fuel a nearly $4 billion industry. Good. That looks like that's mainly just men too. So, okay. Let's see where they got this from. Decades of the house, but it doesn't really say. So we're just going to run with. I think we're going to run with in style. Let's do a quick check. Media bias fact check. Still important. Insider 17 GQ blah blah blah. So in style is not here. Again, doesn't mean that it's not useful. So let's go here. So we have to video in the magazine. Just trying to get like a what is in style magazine. Probably need to go there. About us kind of thing. It's kind of odd. This is going to take us right back to where we were. No, but this is the store, magazine store. We don't want that. Let's see. Let's go to our friend Wikipedia. Advertising, blah, 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 blah. Celebrity lifestyles, chief of this, originating in the United States. Women's fashion magazine. Still, I mean, they don't really have a reason to make that number up, so I'm going to be okay with that. Yeah, and I want to see okay, we're going to run with it. Save to treat baldness. According to an article in I'm just going to put it all in caps so I remember to cite it right. In style, comma, a women's fashion magazine. Let's say a worldwide women's fashion magazine. $4 billion was spent on treating hair loss 2019. Great. It's so dark. Just do it. Go back to you. Okay. So now, after hearing this speech, you should what? Should agree. That one, we'll come back to that. Let's just grab these for consistency. And our closure, back to Connor. You might be wondering what happened to Connor. One morning, he realized he was going bald. He felt terrible. He felt as though his life was changed and that people would never see him the same. This does not have to happen in the future. People will still go bald, but they should never feel the way Connor felt. So, call to action. Oops. What can they do right now? So right now, please visit. Find out what we want to say. See what we get. The Mayo Clinic. Actually, WebMD. Treatments and solutions with pictures. Here we go. So they're going to have solutions, so that's good. Please visit the Mayo Clinic's website and search baldness. There, you will learn that being bald is not abnormal and is natural. You will also find natural treatments that might help until we are able to erase the stigma. Great. How are we doing on time? Oh, good. So now we just need to do our thesis statement. Thesis statement, central idea. So I think baldness is a natural process. Sure. Natural process that should be accepted in our culture. Fine. Sorry about that. So then we can come right back here. Clearly, baldness is a natural, whatever I said up here. We should just copy and paste it. Got it. Okay, so that should be that. Now, let's see how this would work with time. What about the timer? As soon as I can find it. Should not take that long. Here we go. Stopwatch, reset. Okay. Again, I'm going to read a lot, so this isn't really the delivery style I'm looking for exactly, but the key reason I do this is to show you that it can be done, one, fairly quickly, and two, how things will flow and stay with Monroe's, and just use the outline. You don't need to add much. Here we go. Connor was a 20-year-old college student. He loved the college life. He felt younger than ever. Between his friends, fun, and his fraternity, Connor had the life. However, he noticed that he was seeing some hair on his pillow each morning when he woke up. At first, he didn't think about it much. Then a little more hair started to show up, and a little more, and a little more, until one day, it happened. Hi, I'm Carl, and today I want to talk to you about baldness. By the end of this speech, you should agree that there is an unacceptable stigma regarding baldness in our Western culture. Baldness is a natural process that should be accepted in our culture. You should care about this topic because many men listening will experience baldness on some level, and it often begins by age 21. Women who are listening should also think about baldness because it does impact them. Women may not think it does, but they are likely to suffer from hair loss as well. Today, we'll talk about three main points: the stigma around baldness, changing our culture, and a better, balder tomorrow. To begin, let's discuss the stigma surrounding baldness. That stigma is nothing new in Western culture. According to a BBC article from 2018, this goes back to ancient times. Julius Caesar was known to be self-conscious of his balding. In fact, there's the Caesar haircut that tries to push hair forward and cover baldness. The Vikings had a special lotion they would use to try to make sure that their hair stayed intact. And these efforts wouldn't be made unless there was a stigma that said balding is bad and it needs to be corrected. Now, the big problem that we see is that being bald and the stigma around it impacts men and women's self image negatively. According to the American Hair Loss Association, updated in 2010, most men who suffer from male pattern baldness are extremely unhappy with their situation and want to change it. Hair loss affects every aspect of the sufferer's life. It affects interpersonal relationships as well as professional lives for people who are suffering. It is not uncommon for men to change their career paths because of hair loss. Also, it's the same for the ladies. According to an article in the British Medical Journal from 2005, there's an important link between hair and identity, especially in women. About 40% of women with baldness have had marital problems as a consequence, and about 63% said they've had career problems. The extent of baldness is one of those predictors of psychological distress, and people with severe hair loss are more likely to experience psychological distress. And for both sexes, the same British Medical Journal article noted that psychiatric disorders are more common in people with baldness than in the general population. So, we see a clear problem that comes from a stigma of being bald. And now that we know more about that stigma, let's address the issue. We need to remove the stigma around being bald through education. First, we need to realize that baldness is a physical process beyond the individual's control. That comes from a Lancet article from 2000. The Lancet is a major American medical journal. In our culture, it should be unacceptable to stigmatize other uncontrollable physical processes. This isn't unlike eye color or skin tone. And if we educate people about that, hopefully we can reduce the stigma. The second step in our plan is to get that word out about this being a natural thing that happens. We should do that through TV and online advertisements and recruit famous bald people to be in these advertisements. They should do this pro bono because they can tell you firsthand there is a stigma that affects people. Now, this will cost money for production and airtime. That should come from concerned donors. I know as a bald man myself, I may chip in. And that whole pot of money can be managed by the National Hair Loss Association. After all, that's their job, is to deal with hair loss in America. Finally, the last part of this plan could be to start a pledge campaign to remove the stigma. This would see young people signing a pledge to promise not to make fun of bald people. At least it will put it in the front of their mind. So what we're going to call this is Lose Your Hair, Not Your Dignity. So now that we know more about the stigma surrounding baldness and how we can address it, let's look at what a better, balder future might look like. So in the future, as the culture accepts baldness as being normal and natural, balding men and women will not need to feel stigmatized due to their appearance. This can reduce all those negative items that we discussed in terms of psychological trouble, marital problems, professional problems. Also, another benefit is that people will save money from trying to treat baldness. According to an In Style article, which is a worldwide women's fashion magazine in 2019, $4 billion were spent on treating hair loss. Imagine if that money were spent on world poverty. That could change everything. Also, a final benefit is that anytime we can reduce stigma, and stop making fun of a group of people, our culture improves. So, after hearing this speech, you should agree that there is an unacceptable stigma regarding baldness in our culture. Clearly, baldness is a natural process that should be accepted in our culture. We talked about this stigma, how we're going to change it in a better, balder future. You might be wondering what happened to Connor. Well, one morning he realized he's going bald. He felt terrible. He felt as though his life was changed and that people would never see him in the same way. This doesn't have to happen in the future. People, of course, will still go bald, but they should never feel the way Connor felt. So, right now, visit the Mayo Clinic's website and search baldness. There, you will learn that being bald is not abnormal. It is, in fact, natural. You'll also find natural treatments that might help. Because until we can erase this baldness stigma, some people still need to do the best they can to slow their hair loss. So please, help me as a bald man. Dun, 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 dun. That was some quick thinking that wasn't the most beautiful, but okay. So 6:57 right now, so we back that down to what? 6:45, 6:50, and 5 to 7 minutes. Perfect. Okay, so we're right in there. Again, it won't be just like that, but you see that I didn't add much at all. And in fact, the little things I did add, you could type those out into full sentences and you probably would have them in there. So again, it is, get rid of this, 4:07. We still did all this in less than an hour, and it turned out pretty decent. So I will, of course, put the video up because you're watching it, but I'll also have this outline available to you as a guide, if you wish, that you can use as you make your own Monroe's Motivated Sequence outline from our class template. So, from me and all my friends here on Bourbon Street, enjoy your time, and I will see you soon.